Good morning. Our gathering song this morning, I'm just going to say a sentence about it, because I don't think we've done a Yiddish song here in at least a while. This is Zog nit keinmal. It's the partisan song from World War II. It was written, we'll hear more about it later in the service, but just so you know, it came from the Vilna ghetto after they learned about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. So we'll have the translation of the lyrics up on the screen as we gather, but maybe this will wake us up. Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst den letzten Weg, wenn Himmeln weinen, verstellen blaue Tag. Weil kommen wird noch unser Haus gebänkte Schau. Es wird abheugt von unser Trott, wir seien nah. Kommen wird noch unser Haus gebänkte Schau. Es wird abheugt von unser Trott, wir seien da. Von grünen Palmenland bis weißen Land vor Schnee, wir kommen an mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh. Und gefallen sie zerspritzt von unser Blut, sprotzen Wotter unser Gewurre, unser Mut. Und gefallen sie zerspritzt von unser Blut, sprotzen Wetter unser Gewurre, unser Mut. Es wird die Morgensumba gilden uns dem Heind, und der Nächten wird verschwinden mit dem Feind. Nur ruhig versammen wird die Sonne in dem Kajor, wie ein Parol soll gehen, das Lied von dort zu dort. Nur ruhig versammen wird die Sonne in dem Kajor, wie ein Parol soll gehen, das Lied von dort zu dort. Sag nicht einmal, als du gehst dem letzten Weg, wenn Himmeln wehen, verstellen blaue Tag. Willkommen wird noch unser Haus gebänkte Schau. Es wird abheugt und unser Trott, wir seien da. Willkommen wird noch unser Haus gebänkte Schau. Es wird abheugt und unser Trott, wir seien da. And with that, I believe Jen is up in our bell tower ready to ring our bell, calling us into worship.
Welcome to our beloved sanctuary, as well as our digital sanctuary on Zoom. My name is Ruth Kahn, and I have been here at Theodore Parker Church since the critical year of 2016. I am also a member of the Music and Worship Committee, as well as on the board. And it is a joy to be here with all of you. Many thanks to Deanna Wong, who is our camera point person today, and Tom Keidel, who is our Zoom usher. Those of you who are here in person, we ask that you keep your mask on at all times while indoors, though worship leaders may take off their masks at the mic when distanced from others. Feel free to use the QR codes at either entrance to pull up the order of service on your phone, or take one of the large print copies. People of all ages are welcome to move about the sanctuary as they need to, or make yourselves comfortable in the cozy zone in front of the pulpit. Children's programming for our elementary school kids will begin today after our Time for All Ages. Childcare provider Shannon will be available with both nursery-age children in the narthex, that's the area in back of the pews, or accompany them to our nursery in the parish hall, which is through those doors and through the breezeway. As we begin our service today, we acknowledge that our church was built on the ancestral unceded land of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the devastating legacy of settler colonialism and continuing harm done to Indigenous groups in our community and beyond. May our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion call us to take meaningful, restorative action to honor and protect the land and all her people. We invite you all to bring your perspectives, your doubts and beliefs, and all that is unique and wondrous about you to our service. In the spirit of love, all are welcome here. At the close of our service today, we'll have a time for sharing of joys and concerns. For the next 4 Sundays, our sanctuary will be adorned with art from 2 of our congregants. The quilt above our chalice is called Light and Dark by Mary Harmon, and over the statue of Theodore Parker are 3 small pieces of art by Karen Kirchhoff. You can read about both the quilt and the artwork over by the statue as well. Thank you so much, Karen and Mary. If you're new to Theodore Parker Church or are visiting today, we'd love to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out the connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly updates and help us to welcome you. A link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as our contact information. Those joining us here in the sanctuary are encouraged to fill in the contact card you'll find in your pews within the bright yellow pamphlet. Thank you, Tori. We'd like to offer a moment for those joining us remotely to greet those who are joining us in person. So, Diana, could you please put our sanctuary screen in the gallery view so that we see our offstage congregation?
They're coming.
Let's give each other a big wave and say hello from off-site to the sanctuary and back again.
Ooh. Almost. They're there, I promise you.
Here we go.
Great.
We hope that each of you will find some comfort to carry with you over the week and some challenges for your thoughts. As always, we wish for each of you health, well-being, and a sense of peace. As our pianist Yukiko Takagi brings us into worship with an iconic piece by John Williams, we bid you welcome.
Every week to start like that. Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be together. Our second source of our living faith of Unitarian Universalism is we draw inspiration from words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. And nobody said those people can't be from fictional universes. So today, as we gain inspiration from resistance movements, we'll look to sources from right here and now, as well as from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. From the streets of Boston to the walls of the Vilna ghetto to the great mythology of the Star Wars universe, let us dedicate ourselves to loving, faithful resistance. Starting right here, this morning we honor the late Mel King. whose funeral was held in Boston this week. Mr. King was a community organizer, an educator, and the first Black candidate for mayor in our city's history. We enter worship with these fitting words from his poem, The Power of Love. In the love of power, we worship idols. In the power of love, we worship humanity. Love of power builds fences. The power of love opens doors. The love of power sees limits. The power of love is infinite. With that, together, we enter our time of worship. And our opening hymn together this morning is quite the resistance song, We Shall Overcome. And when we sing it, we don't sing it lightly. It has quite a history that deserves to be honored. We Shall Overcome is believed to have its origin in the gospel song, I'll Overcome Someday, by African-American minister and composer Charles Tindley. The song was popularized in the 1960s by folk singers and activists Pete Seeger and Joan Baez, and became the unofficial anthem of the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of the song in March 1968, just days before his assassination, saying, "There's a little song that we sing in our movement down in the South. I've joined hands so often with students and others behind jail bars singing it, we shall overcome. Sometimes we've had tears in our eyes when we joined together to sing it, but we decided to sing it, we shall overcome. Oh, before this victory is won, some will have to get thrown in jail some more, but we shall overcome." There's a wide range of verses to this song, and today we'll sing some that aren't listed in the hymnal. They'll be up on the screen, though. In particular, I always think of Pete Seeger saying, "Now you know the best verse was made up down in Montgomery, Alabama. It says, 'We are not afraid.' And like everyone else, we have been afraid, but still, we sing it anyway. We are not afraid." So with that sacred history in mind, let's sing our opening hymn, reverently, humbly, and with gusto. I invite you to rise in body, in spirit, or raise your voices as we sing together. It's number 169 in the gray hymnals.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
You may have a seat. I think we can go home now. Each week, we light our flaming chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, with words of shared commitment, of covenant. This morning, I've got Robin and Stenzi ready to help us light our chalice. First, we share our chalice lighting words in English and then in their Spanish translation. In honor of our sister community in Plazuelas, El Salvador, the words will be up on your screen in just a moment. Thank you, Tiana.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con amor
y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Thank you. And I believe Rose has a time for all ages that will help us learn more about this chalice.
I do. Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be with you all this morning. So this morning, we're talking about resistance, specifically movements of resistance against fascism and empire, both in our real lives and histories and in imagined galaxies far, far away. So I thought it would be a good moment to share with you all more about the symbol of anti-fascist resistance that is actually central to our worship services, whether or not we always name that part of its history and context. I'm talking about the flaming chalice, the vessel of light that we kindle every Sunday to mark the sacredness of our time together, that helps us to center in our purpose. The first use of this symbol has a very specific history, which dates back to World War II. The rest of the brief history I'm going to share was written by Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, and you'll see on the screen there'll be a reference image for us to enjoy. So in the 1940s, as the German army began to impose its totalitarianism across Europe, many people fled for their lives. At the time, the Unitarian Service Committee, USC, committed itself to rescuing as many refugees as possible. Their work was dangerous, and they saved the lives of many. The documents created to help these refugees escape needed an official logo. So, Dr. Charles Joy of the USC hired a graphic designer, Hans Deutsch, who himself was a refugee, to create one. Here it is up on the screen. The flaming chalice, its first use was in this logo, drew upon ancient religious symbols to be this official seal for the USC. It included the communion chalice, holy oils used for blessing in many traditions, the altars of Greek and Roman times, lights put in the window as a symbol of hospitality. All of these are evoked in the symbol of the flaming chalice. Throughout World War II, this symbol guided refugees to safety on travel documents, business cards, and in the windows of otherwise hidden offices. After the war, the flaming chalice gained popularity as a symbol of Unitarianism more broadly, and then later of Unitarian Universalism. The ritual lighting of a chalice in UU worship became widespread in our congregations in the 1970s, so a good 30 years after the logo was first created. Our flaming chalice is still a symbol of life-saving welcome. Where it burns, its light beckons all of us to live up to our shared values, to participate in the liberation of all people. A true symbol throughout time of joining the resistance. Thank you all. I'm going to invite any kids here today to join me for Children's Chapel and talk more about resistance and a bit more about galaxies far, far away.
For you shall go out in joy, for you shall go out in joy, and come back in peace, and come back in peace. Blessed be.
Oh, Maddie didn't like that song. I did. I invite you to join me in our centering hymn this morning, another resistance song from a little bit more recently. We'll be singing Holly Near's We Are a Gentle, Angry People. I'll say a little bit about this one. So Holly Near was giving a concert in 2017 and said this about her song. I wrote this song when Harvey Milk and George Moscone were assassinated. We originally sang, we are gay and lesbian together, but then we were surrounded by the support of allies, so I changed it to, we are gay and straight together. And now we're learning more and more about gender and sexuality, and it now requires many more syllables than I can fit into the song. So let us now sing, we are all in this together. Straight from Holly Near. If you'd like to follow along in the gray hymnal, it's number 170, but the lyrics are going to be up on the screen as well, including Holly's verse, we are all in this together. I invite you to rise in body, in spirit, or raise your voices as we sing, we are a gentle, angry people.
We are a gentle, angry people,
And we are singing, singing for our lives.
we are a gentle, angry people,
And we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
All in this together.
We are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
You may have a seat. I invite you to join me now in a time of meditation or prayer. First in words, then in about a minute of silence, and then in a musical meditation. Our words of meditation today are from Reverend Stephen Schick. When the victor cries for all the dead, then my heart will rejoice. When the vanquished forget vengeance, then my heart will rejoice. When the greedy share their wealth, then my heart will rejoice. When success is ours and ours means everyone, then my heart will rejoice. Anticipating this, I will rejoice in shaping victories of love. Anticipating this, I will rejoice in creating triumphs of forgiveness. Anticipating this, I will rejoice in sharing my wealth and the fruits of my labor. Anticipating this, I will call you my sister, and you my brother, and you my kindred. Anticipating this, we will clasp hands in the common struggle. We share now in a time of quiet.
Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with gratitude for all that we have been given and with the faith that together we have more than enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment writing out a check and sending it to the church after the service. Ushers will be coming around the sanctuary to collect an offering from those in the pews who wish to donate something more tangible. As Yukiko shares another gorgeous John Williams piece from Star Wars, we offer an offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope. Be gratefully received. Thank you. How to Survive the Apocalypse by Sean Parker Dennison. First, learn to listen, not only for enemies around corners and hidden places, but for the faint footsteps of hope and the whisper of resistance. Hone your skills, aim your heart toward kindness, and stockpile second chances. Under the weight of destruction, we will need the strong shelter of forgiveness and the deeper wells that give the sweet water of welcome. We have a place for you. When the world ends, we must not add destruction to destruction, not accept a beggar's bargain, to fight death with more death. In order to survive the apocalypse, any apocalypse at all, we have to give up the counterfeit currency of self-sufficiency, the mistaken addiction to competition, the lie that the last to die has somehow survived.
Thank you, Ruth. And thank you, Yukiko, for being such a good sport with all that Star Wars music I threw your way. And since my laptop is blocking it, the shirt says, "A woman's place is in the resistance." When my mom taught high school English, their reading of Elie Wiesel's memoir, Night, was some students' first real exposure to the Holocaust. She told me that every year, some of her students would ask some variations of, why didn't the Jews fight back? Why didn't their neighbors do anything? I would have fought back against the Nazis. And a content note, our sermon starts in a grim place, but I promise I won't leave us there. I know I billed this as a Star Wars sermon, and we'll get there soon. And the truth is, many people did fight back against the Nazis. Jews and other targeted groups resisted from within ghettos and concentration camps. Allies used their privileged status to help save lives, like the Unitarian Service Committee that we heard about. And people with all kinds of identities fought, spied upon, and sabotaged the fascist forces. I don't think we talk about this enough. When I was 18, I went to the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum in Israel with a number of other Jewish young adults. It was about as sad as you'd expect, but I don't remember too many of the details from inside the museum. what I remember is that when our somber group left the museum, the exit path took us out to this gorgeous courtyard overlooking the city of Jerusalem, where people lived and went about their daily lives. And in front of this overlook was a large sculpture with text in Yiddish, Hebrew, and English. One of my group mates happened to be a klezmer musician, and he recognized it as the lyrics to Zog nit kein Mol, the partisan song I sang at the beginning of the service. He told our group that the song was written in the Vilna ghetto, inspired by news of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. The song spread quickly, and it became the anthem of the Jewish underground resistance movement in World War II. He sang it for us once, and then after a silence, one of our group mates asked, "Will you sing it again?" We needed to be reminded that our people weren't just victims. We needed to be reminded that people with all kinds of identities resisted and dedicated their lives to protecting the lives and liberties of others. We needed to be reminded that resistance songs live on, resistance movements live on, that hope lives on. As the song says, they are watchwords for the next generations. When I read that translated lyric, "The hour we have been longing for will still come. Our steps will drum. We are here." I hear echoes in that of hope for a better future. I hear it saying, "We have hope. Rebellions are built on hope." And okay, that second line is not a quote from a World War II partisan. It's a quote from Jyn Erso, the protagonist in the Star Wars film Rogue One. I promised you we'd get there. The stories of the Star Wars universe continue to be so powerful because, as we know from our history, there have always been forces of evil, of empire and greed and fear and love of power that threaten to overwhelm us. We have always needed stories that remind us that people resisted, harnessing the power of love. We need stories of hope. I know we do right now. Listening to NPR in the morning while I'm making my coffee, I hear story after story that calls out for a strong, loving resistance. Another mass shooting, a new level of climate crisis reached, another piece of legislation designed to strip rights and protections away from trans and non-binary people, another attack on reproductive rights and access to safe and legal abortions. Heck, a resurgence of actual Nazis. And as Indiana Jones said, Nazis, I hate these guys. The pace of repression outstrips our ability to understand it, said the revolutionary Karis Nemec in the Star Wars series Andor. There's a lot to fight. And there are good, courageous, ordinary people joining the resistance every day. Our stories, whether sacred or secular, can inspire us, guide us, and give us courage to fight for the causes of our own time. We can see echoes of our own struggles in our heroes from a safe distance without the same overwhelm we might feel while listening to the actual news. And traveling to a time long ago in a galaxy far, far away lets our imaginations come alive. Since dreaming up this worship theme, I have been taking a deep, deep dive into the Star Wars canon, with a project of watching every live-action movie and TV series within its internal timeline order. I'm not all the way done yet, so starting with the first 3 prequels, moving on to Andor, and so on. Some of these shows I know very well, and some I'm seeing for the first time, and then I'm texting Michael about the things I notice as I go, because I know he's a huge fan. And I'm seeing all of this through fresh eyes. And it's resonating with me in this moment in our history. So come with me now. Let's climb aboard the Millennium Falcon and see what lessons can come to us from Star Wars. I'm going to do my best to avoid major spoilers, especially for the newer productions, but do be warned I have to mention some plot points. Throughout many of the Star Wars films, books, and TV series, we see the rise and fall and rise again of the Empire in various forms. The Republic is taken over by forces of supremacy. The Jedis who helped maintain peace and order are nearly killed off. And over the course of generations, the evil empire keeps finding new and evolving ways of asserting their control and domination over the galaxy's free societies. And yet, in nearly every world and in every generation, there are those who rebel and resist. Now, the Jedis do have the power of the Force at their disposal, the ability to use this power flowing through all living things to help them. That is flashy, and it's cool, and it's spiritual, and I absolutely love it. But what I'm noticing in this watch through is how much depends on the courage and actions of the ordinary people using no supernatural powers. The turning point moments are when all of the species of the resistance movements work together. The fuzzy little Ewoks get the best of stormtroopers just with their rocks and catapults. The wealthy and powerful Mon Mothma and Luthen use their privilege, money, and political connections to subvert the Empire and fund the rebellion secretly. Scrappy Cassian Andor organizes his fellow prisoners to stage a massive jailbreak. Sassy L337's passion for droid liberation saves the day for young Han Solo and Chewie. Mandalorians' commitment to protecting the vulnerable and their steadfast loyalty to their causes, well, that just saves the day all over the place. This is the way. This is the way we make change, too. When we use the powers that we have as ordinary people to subvert the forces of evil and protect the vulnerable. In the film The Rise of Skywalker, the pilot and resistance fighter Poe Dameron says that the Empire wins by making people think that they are alone. We're not alone, he says. Good people will fight if we lead them. I'm inspired by the ways that I see good people around me using the tools at their disposal to resist and to invite others along with them. Just within the last, 2 weeks, Black lawmakers Justin Pearson and Justin Jones were expelled from the Tennessee State House for leading a protest from the House floor calling for gun law reforms. My friend and colleague, Reverend Sam Title, serves at the Church of the River, a UU congregation in Memphis, the city that Justin Pearson was elected to represent. Sam has known Representative Pearson for a few years through organizing and justice work in Memphis. I didn't know this, but Representative Pearson's father is a Disciples of Christ minister who had been looking for a new home for his congregation after they'd sold their building. The plan had already been for his dad's congregation to start worshiping in the UU church building on Sunday afternoons, and the two congregations had been planning for months to hold their Easter service together. I texted Reverend Sam, and he told me that, quote, after all the shenanigans happened at the State House, the two ministers decided on Good Friday that they would step aside and that Representative Justin Pearson would preach the Easter sermon. Reverend Sam and their congregation saw that they had a platform, like literally a pulpit to use, and they didn't shy away from it. Representative Pearson preached about the movement to protect democracy, the movement to end gun violence, and as he said, an end to the funerals that we attend day after day, and week after week, and month after month, and year after year. The sermon made the news nationwide, and both lawmakers have since been reappointed by their districts to the state legislature. And regardless of what our own views on gun control are, we can see this UU congregation's courage and creativity in using the power that they had to uplift voices of resistance and to join their voices in the protest for what they believed in. The other big lesson I'm taking away for our resistance movements comes from the film The Last Jedi. It turns out another good friend and colleague, Reverend Annie Gonzalez, preached about Star Wars in her Easter sermon last weekend at First Parish in Bedford. Reverend Annie talked about how in our big good versus evil stories, be it Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, or actual historical accounts in sacred texts, we love to see the bad guys pay, sure. But ultimately, when these stories are done well, they are about life and love, not just about resistance to what is evil. In The Last Jedi, which is one of the newer trilogies the newer trilogy of Star Wars movies, Rose Tico, who is a maintenance worker for the rebellion, saves the life of Finn, a former stormtrooper who has turned into a resistance fighter. In a scene that is controversial among Star Wars fans, Finn is about to go on a suicide mission to try and destroy an Imperial cannon when Rose knocks him off course in her small vehicle. When he asks why she did that later, she says, "Because that's how we're gonna win. Not fighting what we hate, saving what we love." Amen to that sentiment. Yes, I know that to many of us, it feels satisfying to see bad guys get their comeuppance and face the consequences. I'm in that camp for sure. But Reverend Annie reminded her congregants, as I do now, that is not our victory. Our victory is all of the people who thrive and resist in the face of hatred. Our victory is drag shows held anyway. Our victory is migrants finding safety and dignity for their families anyway. It's celebrating the beauty, courage, and sanctity of our trans siblings. It is Black joy and women supporting each other and all of us protecting the earth, the only life-sustaining planet we have so far anyway. It's the feeling of a clear blue morning after a long, hard fight. Beloveds, resistance movements live on through generations, in song, in story, in spirit. There are good, courageous, ordinary people joining the resistance every day. What is it that you love? What is the biggest, most beautiful victory that you can imagine? How can we build it together? What would it look like for you to join the resistance? Amen. In that spirit of endurance, resistance, and resilience, we'll sing our closing hymn. This one's in the Teal hymnals, number 1015. I Know I Can. It's a contemporary resistance song by Jeannie Gagne. I invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing. And there is another gender binary that we can grow beyond in this song. So when we say, we'll sing sister, and instead of brother, sibling, if you'd like. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together.
Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles beat at every I know I can go on. When sorrows heals my soul and burdens make me strong, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my sibling in my song, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So siblings, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. The troubles wait at every turn, I know we will go on.
Beautiful. You may have a seat. We share now a few announcements and invitations so that you can stay connected with the Theodore Parker Church community beyond our Sunday mornings. And actually, first, I'm going to invite up Susan Karen to tell us about the Tickets to Safety campaign, which launches this week.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank Tori Harrington for making this bus, probably about 15 to 20 years ago, and it's really stood the test of time. So thank you, Tori. It's a very big bus, and we thought we lost it, but we found it. We're very happy. So today is the beginning of our annual Tickets to Safety campaign that we usually kick off in February. We move to accommodate all our exciting changes that are happening at TPC. And now our ministerial candidate, Heather, will be able to see this fundraiser in action. For those unfamiliar with this campaign, the proceeds go to Renewal House, a program of the UU Urban Ministry. Renewal House provides temporary shelter and advocacy to those in crisis due to abuse. We've been supporting Renewal House for over 20 years and to date have raised over $20,000. By purchasing a $25 ticket, you're supporting a trip to a safe haven for a person trying to leave a dangerous situation. Each $25 donation puts a sticker in the window of the bus, and we're hoping to fill the bus up. We've already raised $1,000 and have 40 stickers in the bus. So let's try to get at least 120 this year. And I'll be around a coffee hour for more information about Renewal House. And we have representatives from the Urban Ministry, Dave Harrington, Jennifer Bottomley, and Posey Walton. They can answer any questions you have about that. So I'd like to end with a poem that I've read before, probably about 10 years ago, but it's a very relevant poem, and it's also very old, and it's by Lao Tzu. If there's to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there's to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there's to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there's to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there's to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan, for shepherding us on this Tickets to Safety fundraiser, and to all of you for your generosity. A few other announcements, which I believe are up on a slide when Deanna is able to put that up. Thank you. There's a lot going on, not just this week, but over kind of the next season at Theodore Parker Church. It's a good time to be hanging out here. Oh, apologies that the ushers and coffee hour hosts did not make it to this version of the slides, but thank you to those of you who are doing that. This week on Tuesday evening, the Theodore Parker Church is sponsoring a community conversation with Dr. Carolyn Crockett, along with the UU Urban Ministry, on a new path to closing the racial wealth gap. That's on Zoom, so you can attend from anywhere. It's free, and it's going to be, I think, a really powerful event, so I hope you're able to join. And then on Friday evening, you can come on back to church for the Music on Center concert with the Heather Pearson Trio. That's Friday at 7:30 over in our parish hall. And then our ministerial candidating week / 10 days begins. That's Sunday the 23rd through the 30th. If you're on any of our Theodore Parker Church mailing lists, you should have received an email this past Monday with the link and info, which was again in this Thursday's newsletter. So you can register for any event that you want to attend. It really helps us know who to expect, but pretty much everybody can go to everything. There's also printed copies of the candidating schedule at this entrance as well as at the other if you want to stick it on your fridge. You can go to as many events as you want. It's a really great way to get to meet Reverend Heather in person and begin conversations with her. So Heather will preach on the 23rd from this pulpit as well as on the 30th. And then following the service on the 30th, there's the special meeting to get to vote as to whether to call her as your next settled minister or not. Only members of Theodore Parker Church can vote at that meeting. So today is kind of the last call if you would like to join as a member of Theodore Parker Church and in time to do that. So feel free to find me at coffee hour or drop me or the office an email, and we'll talk this week and find a way to get you officially on board. Finally, information about the special meeting, which will be held at noon that day after the service on the 30th, will be coming out this week. So keep an eye out and you'll see registration info on it. Thank you again to our search team for their ongoing heroic efforts to bring us an incredible new minister. So with that, I have some closing words of benediction, which will have a very special final line, which I invite you to respond to. So Deanna, if you want to put that slide up while I'm doing this, you can choose your own adventure. I thought this was fun. So when I get to the all-important line, you'll know. Feel free to have fun with the response there. My dears, what is it that you love? What is the biggest, most beautiful victory that you can imagine? How can we build it together? What would it look like for you to join the resistance? May the force be with you. We come now